obviously they're not afraid to take characters that have existed and make them their own to fit the narrative of the story that they want to tell, right? So I think that's a plus. That's a pro. But even with the character that they owned, the Winter Soldier, they went from making this man feel like he was ripped out of Terminator in Cap 2 to making him just an afterthought that had one or two cool scenes in the big team-up movie.
The thing that we've been kind of prepping for the past 2 weeks. Last week we prefaced it with a OP character conversation, talking about what OP characters entail for basically all mediums, but also how a lot of that carries over into the MCU. Because we noticed that a lot of people didn't really understand fully what an OP character or a superpowered character entailed. But the Russos had their hands in a lot of them, right? In between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And there's a debate that we're going to talk about as we get into this live stream about, hey, did they handle them well? I think as it ages, that question starts coming up a lot more. And now a lot of people, including the channel's best friend, the unofficial best friend of the channel, Daniel RPK, which actually inspired this whole rabbit hole we went under of, can the Russos actually handle these characters? So, gentlemen, and I'm going to kick this, Lou, over to you. Before we jump into that specific question, overall, with your feeling on the Russos, both kind of before pre-Infinity War or pre-Endgame, pre-now, how do you feel about them? Or how did you feel about them?
It's a tough conversation because I feel like it's like a devil on one shoulder and angel on another. And it's like, this doesn't feel good. And then the devil's like, but it gave you some of the best moments of your superhero comic book live action life. And I'm like, that's true. And then the angel's like, yeah, but like the best movie is really just focused around a singular character in Cap. And I'm like, that's true. But then the other one's just like, yeah, but remember that scene in Infinity War and Endgame? And I'm like, oh, that's true. So I go back and forth on this whole thing. But really, for me, I had to sit down. And after our conversation last week, I felt like I was still missing, like, it was at the tip of my tongue and I couldn't figure out what it is. And I think the big thing of why I struggle with the conversation of the Russos being able to handle Secret Wars or Doomsday specifically is based on their pacing and momentum of their movies. And I never really caught it until I thought about this. But they're always moving. It is jumping, it is moving, it is building towards the next mini climax within the movie that's centered around action. And the breaks aren't really breaks where you sit and like the characters can kind of like, you can lean into the characters and the moments and you can feel something. They break that up with comedy and the haha. And I think a good example of that is obviously with Thor. And for me, I'm like, is that going to work? Because it worked with Cap 2, Winter Soldier. You saw some issues with it in Civil War, which made it feel a little long in the tooth. With Infinity War, you kind of felt that as well. And then Endgame, I think they just kind of cut loose and they're like, ah. And that kind of put me in a place of like proceed with caution with them without having that central character that they ran with. And that for me is the biggest sticking point. There is no Cap for them right now. And that makes me very, very nervous. End statement.
Yeah. No,
I have a question. With all the non-MCU movies that the Russos have done, I know this isn't really, kind of relates to it, but with all the non-MCU movies the Russos have done, does that concern you guys at all for these next two movies?
I'm gonna
like you mentioned the style of like comedy that they refer to, and I don't know why I completely zoned out on the word I was looking for, but the type of like style of films that we got that aren't MCU weren't too well received from the mass audiences compared to their MCU counterparts. So I know some people think that's like such a big thing going against it, but I don't think so. I think they'll be able to work with what they got.
No, real quick. You know what's funny about that point is we can talk about some other shows or movies, like if you guys want to reference anything. But real quick, I think the thing to make note of that is it goes back to, are they an MCU star or are they a movie star type of thing, right? People are like, can you make a good movie? And like, well, they can make a good MCU movie. And I think the stigma with that is, well, then are they really good directors or not? Like it begs the question, if you will, to know that they kind of stepped away, still had a Chris Evans, did what was Ryan Gosling was in that movie that won Gray Man or whatever it was.
Man. Yeah.
Like, it was cool because you saw the Russos were on it and you're like, oh shoot, I'm gonna check this out because a few years after Infinity War or Endgame, Infinity Game, if you will, and they just disappeared. You're like, okay, and you're like, are there movies good? Like, you go to IMDb and it's just like, yikes. And then they're like, we're coming back, and I'm like, but why? Like, what different? This is where I'm landing on it. I don't want to see Infinity War and Endgame again. I already have. And I think that's the thing for me, to your point, Spider Brando, is like, I don't know what else you've done outside of the MCU that makes me feel good about you coming back to deliver on an ensemble movie.
Yeah. I gotta agree with that too. And it isn't because of the flops necessarily, because I think the way that people kind of view, like, most of the movies that they've done outside of the MCU have been streaming movies, so it's kind of hard to gauge like how well a flop is in comparison to something else.
Their ratings alone don't really.
Yeah, ratings. Exactly. Ratings don't really do as much justice to a film, right? Or at least not justice, but it doesn't push forward what I think a lot of companies are determined. Because the thing is, even if the ratings are bad, if 7 million homes watched it in its opening weekend, then technically that's a good number. And if it stays in the top 10 movies for Netflix in 5 weeks in a row, then like that's pretty good when you have stuff that's constantly releasing. So like that's the kind of hard thing. But what I will say is that when you do look at their films, and the only one that I haven't watched that they did outside of the MCU is their newest one, The Electric State, with Chris Pratt and all.
Chris Pratt, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't, that's the only one I haven't seen, but I saw Gray Man. I saw what's the other one?
Cherry.
There you go. Yeah. It was okay. And I think just ultimately for what it felt like for me was it was a good action movie, but that was it. Like I would never be like, that's at the top of my list to watch again. And when you think about that, a lot of the issues that are present with those movies are the things, when you really get down to it, are the things that are present in Infinity War and Endgame. Like it's at the end of the day, it feels like we're just here for some cool action moments, and that's it. I think I've compared, and I think I've said that. I think I said this on stream last week, but I know if I haven't, I've at least said it to you guys that it's hard to gauge how well they will do Endgame, or I'm sorry, Doomsday and Secret Wars, because Infinity War and Endgame was set up for them in a way. They got to play in a sandbox that they partially helped create with Winter Soldier and Civil War. But most of that sandbox was built by everything else that the MCU did. Yeah. So they were placed in there, and they said, Kevin Feige and Disney were like, go have fun. They were like, cool. They went, they had their fun, they did what they did, and then they took their ball home and they left. Fast forward so many years later, they bring them back. Now the sandbox has expanded tenfold, but the mess that they originally made in that sandbox is still there. And the mess that the construction crew made while building their sandbox is now also there. So they now have to clean up their mess and everybody else's mess from the MCU. It's a big ask from anybody to do in only 2 films. So yeah, I'm worried beyond them just handling OP characters.
To that point, Spider Brando, knowing what Hero just said, and understanding that Infinity War and Endgame leans so heavily on fan service, does that raise the flag even higher for you? Or does knowing that they did have so many moments that fans could latch onto because of phase 3, then it's like they could build that same momentum again?
I don't think so this time, just because they have no setup. Like you just mentioned, phase 3, they had to build off of like the culmination of all that. But I mean, right now we're just gonna get nostalgia fan service, kind of like what Deadpool and
Yeah.
Wolverine did. As good as Deadpool and Wolverine was, and we all raved and hyped over it, there was a lot of nostalgia that went into it, and bringing back the X-Men, like Alan's Nightcrawler and Mystique. I forgot the actress's name off the top of my head. Ian McKellen's Magneto. Charles is coming back, right? That was he on a chair? He got his chair.
Yep.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart. We know we're gonna get some form of freaking nostalgic fan service moment of just seeing these characters on screen again. Because the last time we saw them, there's similar universes is what we got in Deadpool and Wolverine. But I do think the Russos can have some plan to make it work. And this time the multiverse is at play. So like a lot of critiques that people had with the Russos with Infinity War and Endgame was how they handled the Guardians and kind of took James Gunn's Guardians and like dismantled them and kind of ruined what he wanted to set up. With the multiverse, he could take a team like that and then they could just say it's from like it's not like the X2 or like that same exact universe and kind of have that wiggle room, just like what Deadpool and Wolverine did. So I know it's kind of counteracting nostalgia bait fan service, but just kind of just writing it off like that. But we'll still definitely get those cool moments. It's still concerning though, because there's always that chance that they just actually do ruin stuff and don't do what I just said about. I don't know. Now that I think about it, I feel like what I said is a cliche of wanting like them to not be from X2 or like that like universe. So it doesn't get ruined, but then I feel like it's just kind of like a random, oh, they just cashed out nostalgia just by bringing them back, saying they're from a different universe, so nothing gets ruined.
I mean, to be fair, Galactus is a Nexus being. So
That's true.
I guess we've seen Galactus in the past, boys. I don't know.
And the thing is with the multiverse that makes it hard is that you have to find a balance of finding ways to pay tribute to what you did see while also making something new out of it. And that's what's hard. And I think now could be a really good time of diving into some of these characters. But the way I see, for example, someone like Smart Hulk, where I think a lot of people we can very well acknowledge by now that Infinity War and Endgame hurt Hulk, and he's been in this bad state for a while now. And I think for a lot of people, if they see that, if the Russos saw that and they're like, okay, we're going to fix Hulk, but we're going to fix him by bringing a multiversal dimensional Hulk that does feel monstrous and great. I still don't think that will feel good for people because you're still going to have the Smart Hulk, the Hulk that people do want to see have that transformation, not have it. And I don't think that will hit with people.
But even to that point, though, the even more difficult aspect of this is, to your point with the sandbox thing, and SB, what you were saying too. Obviously, they're not afraid to take characters that have existed and make them their own to fit the narrative of the story that they want to tell, right? So I think that's a plus. That's a pro. But even with the character that they owned, the Winter Soldier, they went from making this man feel like he was ripped out of Terminator in Cap 2 to making him just an afterthought that had one or two cool scenes in the big team-up movie.
Black Panther as well.
Black Panther, like you say what you want about Civil War, it had really cool sequences. The airport battle is always going to be memorable for people. But Black Panther was like in and out. He had his cool scene, and then afterwards, they're like, I'm going to put you on the sidelines in the helicarrier spot. And just be like, you're going to get busted.
And he's benched for 85% of Endgame.
Yep.
Because he got blipped. Yeah.
So from that standpoint, it's like, I think it's good that maybe we have a smart Hulk and they can have redemption with the character, which is possible. But again, I also kind of fear that, bringing up the OP thing again, the characters that felt the best in Endgame and Infinity War were your grounded human super soldier like characters, which makes me think like best case scenario of this movie, we feel like we felt in Thunderbolts. Worst case scenario, we get Quantumania 2.0, which feels gross to say.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too fun.
No.
I haven't watched that movie in a while, but
no one has. It's okay.
Yeah. It's just crazy. This movie is so freaking Doomsday and Secret Wars. Just so much potential, and we have no idea. That first trailer is going to be crazy. Like,
yeah,
that's going to be nuts. Whenever they do that reveal to get like some sort of gist on where they're going. What's up, Dill? Welcome in. No one needs to rewatch Quantumania. That's true. They have like 0 to 100, essentially, just like you just said. And I hate to say that. Like, even we still have RDJ still has to prove himself as Doom. And how do they handle that OP Doom character as someone that was just playing Iron Man who has like no powers besides a suit?
And
that's gonna be interesting.
You activated my spell card there.
Oh shoot!
That I wanted to that I really wanted to transition into. Yeah, and insert Yu-Gi-Oh meme here.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, but you think about Doom, right? And how we're like they have to introduce him well because a lot of both this movie and Secret Wars hinges on how well Doom feels. If Dr. Doom comes out and doesn't feel great, it's gonna suck. It's really gonna suck. But then I think of Thanos, where if you really think about it, Thanos did not have any major appearance in the MCU or any significant appearance in the MCU other than Infinity War and Endgame. And what I mean by that is more than like 5 minutes of screen time where he's actually doing something. It is all Infinity War and Endgame. My question to you guys, and I think we can definitely talk about this. Does Thanos feel good to you by the end of Endgame? Do you feel like he's a top tier character because he is, or because they try to tell you that he is?
They show us and we see that he is an Infinity War, not an Endgame. And I think for me personally, knowing and considering these that they're the same movie, one movie, it does kind of lead into the sins of the MCU that come out of this and issues that you see with the multiverse. Is just it felt cheap and it did during the time. I'm sorry, but during the time, like especially right after, you're just like, Thanos 2.0 is your main villain. Like, okay, the time heist thing, cool, I get it. It was a big payoff, right? But that Thanos, like going for the head in the beginning of the movie, and then you get the 2015 Thanos that comes in. It's like, okay, like he was okay. He felt like a what if. But Infinity War is the blueprint, period. I'm sorry. I think that definitely is the blueprint. But he felt very strong. He felt very imposing. He felt like a threat. He felt like a character that if you make a mistake, you will lose. Not saying he was perfect, and the presentation of him definitely was not perfect, especially with the use of the stones. I think the stones are still one thing that sits. I'm like, we spent all that time with the stones, and like the stones didn't feel great. And I know people are like, it's a MacGuffin. It's like, it's not the Book of Ashanti. I'm sorry. Like that's we have a decade's worth of work that went into building each of these things up.
And movies were centralized on them.
Yeah. Which again kind of goes into the balance issue with them of handling OP items, right?
Yeah.
But where I land on Thanos is one of the best villains. I think they did a very good job. I think the things that I wanted them to do with some of the heroes they did with Thanos, but again, it just kind of showed that's the focus was centered around a handful of characters, him included.
It's funny to me that you say that because I think Thanos is one of the best villains if you don't think about it too much. Like once you start thinking about it, like it really starts to show some cracks in the armor and how when it even comes down to it. And I know people like to like misquote the Russos and like try to be like, this is why they don't get it. But I think when you look at how they kind of went about Endgame and when they talk about like Thanos using the stones, how they're like, sometimes he just did it, you know? And if he thought about it for a split second differently, then maybe he could have won. Like maybe he could have dodged Stormbreaker, but like he didn't think about that. But yet throughout the entire movie, we see him make constant split second decisions that show his battle acumen. Yet at the very end, when he has all 6 stones, when he should be unstoppable, that's when he loses his grip. It's just one of those like head scratchers where you're like, what made you want to do that? So then I think about Thanos and I'm like, if the way that you found to tell an interesting story was to basically kill off that version of a character because he was too powerful, what are you going to do with God Emperor Doom? Thanos snapped half of existence and could have done more if he really wanted to. The God Emperor Doom is going to transcend the multiverse. So what is your answer for that?
Multiversal snap.
In a way.
Right, kind of. And okay, let me ask you guys this real quick. Obviously, we know the relationship between Reed and Doom, going back to Doom for a second, is imperative to the story of just Doom. But in Secret Wars, that's a very important relationship. Now, given that we said they don't necessarily carry on what we saw beforehand, which we know Fantastic Four is going to come before Doomsday, and we're going to get a version of Reed. How do you guys feel that, like, who's going to be the balance for Doom? And did you feel that way with Thanos? Like, was there any character that kind of he elevated him specifically? Or maybe characters?
The first one that comes to mind, Gamora. But that was because of the personal relationship that they had that I think they could potentially do with Reed and Doom, where it's that I hate you, borderline, I kind of love you, but not really. You know what I mean? Almost like Batman and Joker type, where it's like I love to hate you.
Yeah.
And I think that would be what they should portray, kind of how Gamora felt to Thanos. Now, just Thanos doesn't feel any love to Gamora, or in this case, Doom doesn't love Reed. But I think that is the best character that really elevated. Because when you think about it, I don't think Cap really had like personal moments with Thanos. Iron Man didn't really either. He only did at the end because he needed to take the stones. And Thor kind of did, but kind of didn't. So,
you know what's funny? When Thanos shows up, each of them kind of went through their emotions indirectly from what Thanos did. Battle of New York, Iron Man 3. That's Thanos. Iron Man, Tony was tweaking because of Thanos. Thor, he tweaked because of Thanos, but that's after that Thanos was gone, he went through all that.
Yeah.
And then Cap, he just, I don't know how many times he's got to get rocked in the face for him to be like, my bad.
Do this whole day.
I mean, he did get crushed. He got crushed twice by a right hook. Yeah, I'm curious if there's anyone who's like, are there any threads from character to character involving Thanos? And like, does that raise any flags for you with the Doom Reed relationship? Or do you think that doesn't matter at this point?
From a comic perspective, obviously it should matter, but I don't know. It feels weird because they did make it work with Thanos. I mean, sure, we saw him in like the post-credit scenes teasing up throughout the years, and Tony had those visions and stuff. But like you guys both said, he didn't really have that many connections besides like the personal connection with Gamora going into it. So if we do see just the fact that everybody, like, if they ever do show Doom's face and everybody knows it's Tony, I think that'll kind of just set the tone for the rest of them, and like that'll be like the personal connection. But even though it's not personal, because they know it's not Tony. I don't know. It's so weird.
That's interesting.
I don't know how they're gonna freaking play it with Doom and Tony or RDJ. So hard to speculate because so hard to speculate.
And that's the interesting thing, where because one of the shorts that we made was potentially the Doom taking Tony's face and being like, "I want to take your greatest hero and make it into I want to desecrate that image." And I do think that would cause a lot of personal turmoil for the heroes. But when you think about it, it's like on paper that sounds really good. But will it fully satisfy a lot of the things that they need to do for the movie? I don't know. It's hard to say.
They have to set up like 3 different teams meeting and fighting each other, and of the whole antagonist in this one movie. It's crazy to think about, and like just the balance of everything.
I will say though, I think that they had a decent setup with team run-ins, like when the Guardians met some of the Avengers, like the Titan team versus the Earth team.
Mm-hmm.
Again, to your point though, SB, it's a more bloated cast from that. And there's a lot more.
Those damn chairs.
Yeah. So like, again, even to this point though, for everyone watching, you're just like, oh, that's a good point. Like, yeah, they've kind of done it. It's like, but there's a but with all of these points. Yeah, the Tony thing can be a connection for the characters between protagonist, antagonist, but does it really feel good that we're going to say he has Tony's face, so that's why Tom Holland's Spider-Man cries? I don't know. Would you like that, SB?
All right. I was gonna say, take the Spider-Man bias aside, because I was afraid you were
going
to say yes.
No. I don't want freaking Doom and Spider-Man rivalry shit or whatever like people think, because it's just of how much of a mentor he was. I don't want that whatsoever. I think
that's not fan service for you.
I mean, it is, but stupid, because I know.
What if he calls him Iron Boy Jr.?
That would be hilarious. That I know. I do not want that to happen. I have friends that hate Tom and give me shit on him being Iron Boy Jr. So they will just spam me with actual canon of him being Iron Boy Jr. So I do not want that to happen whatsoever.
I'm feeling a little evil, Mr. Parker.
If he's a symbiote and happens to fight Doom, then like cool. But I don't want him to be like, I don't want it to be like Doom versus Spider-Man. That's stupid, in my opinion.
I wouldn't mind seeing a fight between them, but I don't think it should hinge the full movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a fight between them would be cool. Face reveal, and then he was like, "Oh my god, I hate you 3000." Mr. Parker or Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, and then it's not Mr. Stark. But that's would be like a cool moment, but I don't want that to be the focal point of, just because they have that technically Tony and Spider-Man probably have the biggest relationship left of all the Avengers currently in the roster. That's even if he's in Doomsday too, because that's even another factor. We don't even know if Spider-Man is going to be in Doomsday, and how he's going to play into it.
Do you guys feel
worst thing potentially?
To that point, to all of that, right, with Doomsday especially and Doom, do you think there's more at stake with these two movies than there was in Endgame and Infinity War? And I don't mean in the MCU, I mean like real world.
No.
Why is that?
I think go ahead.
I was going to say the main reason I say that a lot of people, not us, but a lot of people, tired of multiverse stuff. A lot of people want an MCU rebooted universe. So if these movies fall flat and the reboot still comes, right, but the movies suck, is there not more at stake where Endgame and Infinity War didn't really have all that pressure? And also, let's be honest, the DCU is rising up currently. There's competition now.
Looking up.
Yes, sir. I mean, here's the thing when you say that though, where my head goes. Falcon or Captain America and the Winter Soldier movie, Cap 2 and Civil War kind of set up their respective phases. Whereas 2 and 3. Whereas Infinity War and Endgame obviously ended it, but we didn't know. Like there were no expectations, which was a good thing. Once we saw Infinity War, we're like, oh my gosh, like the expectations for Endgame were even higher. The thing is that movie was done. So there was really no pressure on Endgame for the most part. Like they didn't have that. Yeah, reshoots and all that kind of crap and stuff that went into it, fine. But the premise of the movie and the stuff was done. The way that the MCU is acting now, every single project, although it feels self-contained, it almost feels like they're overcorrecting for future things in a way, even though we haven't really gotten into the stride of like the new MCU that we've been promised for 3 years now. But I think the fan perception into this is there is a chance it could suck. Whereas we didn't know if an Infinity War was going to suck, and Phase 3 was such a high that it was like, there's no way. Like, there is no way that this could suck. And the DCU sucked at that point. So there's kind of two factors of now of like, that franchise fell off and we're like, meh. And then we're like, this movie's great. And now we're getting to the point now where people are kind of resonating with what we're saying. Like, maybe the Russos can't do it. I don't know. Like, we don't have any story to follow. We have nothing to sink our teeth into. Which is why, for me, I do think it's going to be a bigger deal. But I think if these movies did kind of suck and the Avengers title didn't make $2 billion or whatever it is when Secret Wars comes, I think there would be more people who were just like, the writing was kind of on the wall. So do I think this will, but that leads me to my point. I think people are looking forward to a fresh start. I think people are looking forward to a fresh start with the MCU because no matter how good these movies are, there's still going to be questions. It's going to raise more questions than we're going to get answers. If we love Doom, is Doom going to carry over? If we love Moon Knight showing up, are we going to get another show? Is he going to get his movie? If the Fantastic Four are great, where are they going to be? 100%. Like, we can look past this movie already and be like, are you going to set it up? Because you definitely didn't set it up the last time you had the shot.
So would you say it's low stakes because of that?
Low stakes, low reward.
There's no higher reward, you think?
No, this movie could be one of the best movies, but at the end of the day, I think we're at the end of the road. If you're tapping into all that nostalgia and fan service, you've pulled people from the grave for this movie. Like, there is no second movie for a lot of these people. So it's like
Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are almost there.
Dude,
Alan Hutch is like 60 right now doing this stuff.
Bro, Bob Iger is just like, you thought? Bam.
Oh, you're 90.
So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, that might be the more cynical me. And if you've been following us, I think I've been super cynical on the MCU for like 2 years now. But realistically, what is this going to build?
You know, that is true, though. I do have to agree. Because at first I did think, no, there's more going into it because that reboot, but you're kind of right. And then it took me back to The Flash, where we all went into The Flash excited, but I think we even said it before the movie came out. We were like, it could be just okay, but people are gonna be fine because like the DCU is coming right out after. Sure enough, the movie was booty butt cheeks. And literally we've erased it from our memory in most ways until we bring it up like Voldemort and we're like, ooh.
I forgot it existed until
Yeah,
just
we're like,
now.
oh, hate that we talk about that. And I think, yeah, I think people are looking over the fence for what the MCU is doing. And I think people want Doomsday and Secret Wars to be good for the reboot to feel better. But yeah, I don't think at the end of it, if it sucks, I don't think there's much of a bounce back.
Yeah, the way I see it is like they're gearing up. I think they just told the Russos to just conclude everything that's just going on right now, and then just gonna start fresh post Secret Wars, and like a true fresh reboot. Like maybe that's when we'll see Mahershala Ali's Blade instead of pushing it for like right now.
Oof.
Maybe.
Okay.
But
Mm.
I don't know. To me, it just seems like they're giving like they were given an Infinity War and Endgame style movie to send off the multiverse.
Okay. To that point, then, because you just made me think of another question. Do you feel the way that they concluded some of these characters' stories are actually good?
From like Infinity War and Endgame?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Let's take the big two, Iron Man and Cap. Are they satisfying conclusions?
It's the fattest
Cap?
no.
No. Cap? Definitely no. Iron Man?
Bro.
I'd hate to say it, but no, I'm kidding. I think that
I'm not trying this.
I
I'm
don't
not trying
know.
to
I
sway
don't
you.
know.
I'm not trying to sway you, but I'm curious. Are we considering like knowing that RDJ is coming back? Is that a factor? Because for me,
Oh,
every ending is still living to this point, and it can age either great or it can age like dog water. And
I
I'm
was taking it like just for like the moments as they were.
I was going to
Not
say,
like
the moment I cried in the theater like for like 3 weeks straight.
yeah.
But I
I
thought
think
that
at
was
the
it.
time. Yeah, I think at the time they're like pretty good endings. I mean, I don't know how much more Iron Man stuff they could have done to before it was like too much. Um RDJ was kind of like not really getting too interested in it anymore, and the dude was the face of the MCU for like freaking 10 years at that time. So I honestly thought that he had a pretty good conclusion to it. Cap, on the other hand, no. I thought he could have lived like the dude's a super soldier. He could live on for another like 50
But
freaking 100 years. And I think his story could have went on more to like being like a role for the next Captain America and like training like Sam, like truthfully, like just training him by his side to take over the role instead of just like, oh, I'm old now. Here's the shield.
but I just want to point this out again though. We just talked about how Thanos didn't feel great. They gave him a really great strong ending, and then they brought Man back for a movie that didn't age well. They literally are doing that with Robert Downey Jr. in real life.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sorry, but last year when we saw it was him for Doom, we were like, this dude's
What the
still
heck?
like, yeah, like, well, what? Like, why? You could do anything. You can literally do anything. And for me, that feels like a cop out. And for them to keep saying, like, we couldn't envision anyone else to play Doctor Doom and bring this character to life. I'm like, really?
And that's why I say it's worrying when you're like, okay, you only had to tell 10 years of storytelling and you had to wrap up ideally 2 characters. Let's say Kevin Feige at the time said, hey, Cap and Iron Man, we're done. We need a new gen. That's it for them. Write them off. And at the time, let's just take away the RDJ Doom announcement. They're only 50-50 because Cap doesn't feel good. And I would say Cap doesn't feel good not because of the fact that the story ends for him. It's just it kind of goes against kind of what he was learning in Civil War and Winter Soldier, where it's like you keep going forward. with your life. You don't look back despite the past regrets that you have. Haley Atwell moved on, bro. She had kids, man. And you're like, I don't care. I'm going back. Going back for
I
that.
want my story.
Yeah, I want that.
And we're like, what happened? And he's like, can't tell you.
Yeah. I'm not gonna tell you. Bye.
don't think
That's
I will.
unsatisfying. That's super unsatisfying.
Why do you
And
think
I don't-
everybody wants that damn movie of freaking Cap returning the stones?
But then not only that, he left a timeline that was like literally in shambles. Like his time is still in shambles because of the fight, the final fight. And then he just dips.
He's like, you guys got it. You got it.
But is that Cap?
No, 'cause it
Um,
happened.
It's not. And you know what? That statement goes well so both ways. It's not Cap because it's not Cap. It is both factual and it is what happened, but that is also not Cap's character to me. Very well done. You know what? Well
I was
done.
proud of that one.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one on that one. Here we go. Here we go. They were able to set up the Falcon and the Winter Soldier because of Cap's decision. Ultimately stunk. They were able to set up Loki.
Mm.
That was cool. Right?
Did they set it up or did others set that up though?
Loki. Yoink. That's like the praise that like that moment in hindsight so small, but that was a good job. That was a plus for the MCU post snap, if you will. Again, like when you say these things out loud, I'm like, okay, like this isn't great. This isn't really great. And again, these are all reasons why I have concerns for characters, especially like a Daredevil. Do we feel good if a Daredevil would show up in an ensemble movie that was very similar to Endgame or Infinity War? Probably not. Would we feel good if Moon Knight showed up?
No.
Probably not. Would we feel good?
Rival Moon Knight.
It's true. Shout out Fiscal Country. They're just characters that I think that fans want to see that would lean into fan service, but I think we would get the She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Monica Rambeaus of the world that people are like, some really don't want to see, and those that do want to see it can be honest with themselves, like us here at the Point 3 podcast. I'm going to speak for us for a second. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't want to see any of them again. There's no part of me that wants to see Miss Marvel with both bands. I don't want to see Monica again, even with her post-credit scene that I think is going absolutely nowhere. And I probably don't want to see Captain Marvel because every time you show up, you do like one cool thing, power up, and then you're like, gotta go, gotta blast, Jimmy Neutron Jr.
I was literally going to say gotta blast when you said gotta go.
So like any residual carryover, like strong character that we're like, hey, you've worked with them before. There's not one of them that I would feel good about being a focal point in a Doomsday movie besides Tom Holland.
Yeah. And
They
you
did
see,
do a good job with Tom in Civil War. I can't lie. That was very awesome.
That was cool.
Spidey
It was a good setup.
Yeah.
For sure.
Spidey introduction.
But again, that goes down to, I think, a lot of fan service because they know and they understand the appeal of Spider-Man and how hard that carries for people. But at the core of it, from both Secret Wars comics, like Spider-Man plays a relatively small part in the story. And the story goes out there in places that you don't think of, even for its like moments that they do set up.
Yeah.
The moments are very much out there. And I think based on what the Russos have showed us throughout the entirety of their MCU run between Cap 2 all the way until Endgame, is that they know how to elevate the human characters to a different level and make them feel really good. Like they know how
Yeah.
to make Cap feel good. They know how to make the Winter Soldier feel cool. Black Panther, these almost human to above human characters, and make them feel like they're special. And they are. They are special, 100%. But when it comes down to your bigger characters, where they're your Hulks of the world, your Thors, your Captain Marvels, and now Doomsday has double that many characters, and it's like how are you going to balance all that? I just don't see it happening, especially in a story that whatever version you take from, even if it is wholly original, you have to do some out there stuff with it, and I don't know if they can pull that off.
I don't, and I definitely spinning it into a positive for a second. Not saying it was negative, but just if they could do it, one of the biggest things is they just don't have time based on what they've told us. And I know we've said this, and I hear you might have said this in the last couple of weeks, that if we were to get them to oversee a phase and stretch this out for 4 to 5 years, I feel very confident that there's time that they can do it. We're basically asking them within 4 hours, let's just say 5, maybe 6, to give us the story that you told with Cap 2 and kind of do this gradual reveal of like what's going on to ultimately shield everyone's a bad guy. Okay, cool. To then do a team up hero versus hero team, but now add more of those like we got in Civil War, to give us a strong villain like we got in Thanos and strong antagonists, while also setting stakes to an unprecedented height. And then to ultimately wrap all this up in some way, good or bad, like Endgame. How that is Everest of God tier storytelling that they're credited with doing very well across 4 separate projects. And we're saying, hey, you get 2. And oh, by the way, you have 75 characters you have to play with.
Just no time.
Especially when they start filming within a year of its release date.
Which
I
is
had a
just
nickel for every time Marvel started filming a movie a year within its release date. I'd have 2 nickels, and it's crazy that's happened twice. If I had a nickel for every time a DC movie finished a year before its release date, I'd have 2 nickels, and it's not crazy that's happened twice. Cough, cough, Superman, cough, cough, Supergirl, done. Fantastic Four started like 2 weeks after Superman finished filming. Just put that into perspective.
Oh no, dude. 100%. 100%.
Never not bring that up whenever I have a chance to bring it up.
It's a good point, though.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
That matters. That matters because it's like how. Because not only that, remind me if I'm remembering this incorrectly, guys. But wasn't there like various reports that there was like multiple scripts for this movie too, even after they were attached?
Yeah, while filming was going on, there's a lot of actors, like a couple of the Thunderbolts actors. I know Lewis Pullman at one point said that he never read a script yet, when we've known that I was filming for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I do want to bring up though that sometimes this not leak culture, just knowing this behind the scenes stuff, definitely hurts us a little more, because there's probably a bunch of people watching this that don't even know when movies film or don't probably think that has been done.
Yes.
For now, so
But
this like ruin expectations or anything, but it's setting certain expectations, like giving these visual effects artists a year and you're marketing to promote a movie when it's still like being made up until 2 weeks before.
And both Infinity War and Endgame had sketch visuals. To be honest, I mean, it was a pretty CGI heavy movie.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a very good point. All the freaking power, like, talk about overpowered characters with X-Men. Not saying they're all overpowered, but their power set, translating that onto the screen with all our other main MCU power sets that we know. Fantastic Four powers in there too. Look at how kind of skeptical some people think Reed looked in that trailer. I thought it looked pretty good, but that was from within them. They were able to do that, I guess, within a year of filming, which is cool. But it could be like so much better if they just had it planned out
Like,
and
the
like
bar should be up
so much
here,
higher. Yeah.
and it's like right in here.
Okay. Maybe one last question for you guys, because and again, if you're listening to us, we're not negative on the movie and we're not trying to rag. I just think we're bringing up concerns that most fans have that some say, but some will not say loud enough.
Yeah.
Because I have seen people bring this up, but I think they're not focusing on it because a lot of people are trying to be like, hey, it's fun. Like, just get over it. But no, these are genuine questions that I think we can have. So my kind of maybe the last question, in case, or if there's anything else you guys want to add to it later, definitely feel free. But knowing that Kevin Feige's working closer with this movie than he has most of anything else between Phase 4 and 5 before Thunderbolts, does that raise any hopes for it? Does that make you feel better about it, knowing that he's more involved? Knowing that the person with the vision is there?
That was a little bit, but there's just so much damage control at this point that like they had that whole Kang storyline set up, and just we didn't even talk about what they're gonna do with that and how OP that freaking
Nothing.
that OPness just turned into nothing essentially.
And it's going to remain nothing.
Yeah, so it's just I'm happy that he's at least trying to help course correct stuff as much as he could, but at the same time, it's just like, oh, should have been there from the start, and we wouldn't probably. I can't say we wouldn't have been in the situation, but because they've had a lot to deal with. Who knows when their main villain that they had planned out to be every single actor was going to be a dick and do what he did. There's a lot of stuff they couldn't really plan, but I think he could have been more involved into like instead of having to scramble right now, because it seems like they're scrambling because they didn't have that plan even with King like fully set up. So
But
Feige should have definitely been more involved.
what does more involved mean for you? Because for me, to your point of the double nickels, they said it, they did it, they showed it, they finished it. Gunn said, we're doing this. He was transparent, answered questions. The team was very transparent. Seemed like everyone on the cast and teams were very open of like, that was a great experience. I really enjoyed that. I want to work with the DCU. I would love to play and probably sign multi-year contracts, multi-appearance contracts. For me, the involvement, I'm like, you can put Feige's name on it, but the MCU and Disney are to the point for me where I almost feel like they can put his name on it just to be like, hey fans, Kevin Feige was on this. This is good, right? And I'm just like, no, I feel like he definitely wasn't on this when you just slapped his name on it. Or he's an executive producer. Cool. Doesn't really mean much. And now it's to the point where it's like, we don't hear him say anything. He's like, Deadpool and Wolverine. He was talking about it. Cool. You're going to find out what the asterisk is. And I'm like, is it going to be New Avengers? And he's like, can't tell you. You'll wait a year to find out. And I'm like, okay, what the hell? Show me other stuff. Because, like, great. Couldn't have guessed that one. That, for me, is like, it goes back to what we say all the time. They feel disorganized. They seem disorganized. It feels like the good projects are projects that aren't really a part of the grander scheme of things. And the movie and the titles and the names that they're associating with these, which I do think is a mistake to call it Secret Wars. I thought it was in the first place. But to switch Kang Dynasty to now Doomsday, I'm like, okay. But at the end, these movies and the Avengers titles are now not just, they mean more than just, hey, you're going to get 6 characters of heroes called the Avengers. No, Avengers means there is some massive event that is happening that will unfold. Go see this movie. It is going to be the ultimate resolution to a great storyline that you should have gotten for the past 2 to 3 years, 2 to 4 years. None of that means anything. Like the names don't carry as much weight as they used to in the MCU, which the Russos had that. They had that. It was cool when you're like, what's the next Avengers movie name going to be? Oh, shoot, it's Endgame, and it sends people off. And then you see Doctor Strange throwing up the one finger. That's super cool. We don't have that. They don't have that to work with. Names don't carry much weight. And now we're at the point where we can talk for an hour and be like, the Russo names don't even carry as much weight as they used to.
Even Feige, for me personally. And I only ask that question because I see a lot of people still put faith in that. But I think for the past 2 years that we've been doing this podcast, I think we've kind of said it how it just kind of means nothing. And I think he shows up for, like SB said, that damage control for the occasional market to boost something up for a little bit, you know, especially when people are going to the world's famous CinemaCon, you know, that's when he'll appear. Well, Feige said this thing at this one event, so like clearly it has to mean it's good. But it's so interesting to me where you have, and this is where I say I don't put much stock in it anymore, because before you would have Kevin Feige constantly talk about these movies even after release.
Yeah.
But now you have Bob Iger come out.
Yeah.
Because Thunderbolts was considered a success by fans and by people, by reviews, but it made less money than Brave New World. Yet Bob Iger didn't say anything about that, but he said something about Thunderbolts. So did he say it because of the ratings? To me, I feel like he said it more because it's like Avengers is right around the corner. So I have to say something to boost the anticipation and the hype. The fact that their post-credit scene was done a month before the movie was out on the Avengers Doomsday set is telling that there's still probably some changes that they don't even either they don't want us to know about, or they don't know what they are doing fully yet. And both of those scenarios kind of suck.
Yeah. I mean, again, at the end of the day, are we still MCU fans? Yes. Are we going to go see these films? Yes. Are we going to talk and speculate and dive into them and be like, this could happen? Yes. But you would be silly to not say, yeah, but to these movies. Because even with Thunderbolts and the success of Thunderbolts, and even with Brave New World, and I will say Brave New World was successful, especially for Sam Wilson, you don't get that organic carryover that we used to get. It kind of died off a little bit. Even Thunderbolts, because you're butting up into the next project. And now it's real of like, I want to hold on to the feeling I have with Sentry. I don't want Sentry to be stained by the future MCU. And for people to be like, Sentry kind of sucks when we look back on his next appearance 5 years down the road.
My heart, don't do it to me.
I'd cry.
Yeah. Could you imagine Bucky, though? For real. Bucky, the best he's felt since Cap 2 probably was Thunderbolts.
Probably.
He's had
Not
moments.
Civil War.
He's had moments. I don't. Civil War, even he had moments while he was still that Winter Soldier feel. And that's the thing is like when he went back to being that kind of like badass character, everyone's like, yeah, that's who I want. Falcon and Winter Soldier, same thing. I'm like, I'm going to pretend to be Winter Soldier. Who are some of the best parts of that show? When my man's pretending to be Winter Soldier. The coolest part in this movie, for the most part for him, is like the Winter Soldier's here, blah, 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 blah. And like he's wrecking people. That's what people love.
In danger.
Armed and dangerous.
Yeah.
Guys, like you just can't like we're not ragging on the MCU, but there has to be a real moment to where you look and see we're about to come up with one of the greatest months in superhero history, just history across all mediums. some very monumental. But when you look at the future of each of those movies, what's potentially coming after, one looks really good and it's really green and it's really bright, happy, and fun. And the other, you're just like, that's a black hole in space. I don't know if we should go that route. And I think I'm good here.
It's not even done. And it's not even done. That's the tough part. And I think that's why we ask these questions while they're still filming, and especially about the Russos, about the writers, about Kevin Feige, about handling characters, is because you have all this going on. You have what is honestly, probably in my opinion, the most important Marvel movie within the past 5 years in Fantastic Four, because there is a lot riding on Fantastic Four's success. And yet the thing that's following up, which is supposed to be the next big event for in the entirety of the superhero fandom, again, is still not even done. And by the point that Fantastic Four comes around, we're 9 months away from Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about it, that raises some questions and some concerns. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, just be a fan, let it ride. I think we are. But these conversations still need to be had, because what happens is you start raising your own expectations to the moon. And then if the movie is just a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10, there's going to be a disconnect for fans.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this one thing. Given all these pieces, what do you want to see? Like, what is your one thing that you want to see them do or hit on in Doomsday, the Russos specifically, to make this feel hopeful for you, more hopeful?
I need to.
Like, where do you put the most weight?
I feel like I need to see why they chose RDJ as Doom.
So just Doom.
Just Doom. Yeah, literally just Doom. I feel like that makes or breaks. Obviously, that makes or breaks the whole story.
I would say, in a way, kind of the same, but not really. I would say it needs to earn that Secret Wars name in the same way where Infinity War earned the Infinity War moniker, by actually building up all this story. And even though we've kind of talked about some of the negatives from that story, it did tie everything we saw in the MCU. And I need that here. How are they going to do that? I don't know. But I do need Moon Knight in here. I do need What If in here.
Yeah.
They need to go balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Fully. And it needs to earn that Secret Wars name. Because right now it doesn't feel like it.
I like that.
Give me Toby and Andrew, please.
They wouldn't earn that for the movie, if I'm being honest. If that's all that they can bring, and that's what they think will bring Secret Wars and make it earn it, that doesn't.
Oh no, I'm not saying just only that. I'm just saying I want to see them again.
Yeah.
I'd be okay.
I mean, here's the hard part for me to answer my own question. I don't have faith that they'll be able to hit on 2015 specifically the key subplots that made it feel really good from a relationship standpoint. With Panther, it's probably not going to happen. Strange, maybe. Thor Core, Reed and Doom, not sure. Like, there's so many questions of what I love about the 2015 Secret Wars. Like, that's for me what they would need to showcase, are like those true concepts from a post Battle World perspective. But I think for me, from an MCU thing, I actually don't care about any of those things more than me caring, and what I'll be watching the most is how they treat the mutants, from their storylines, their power sets, their look. That to me will be kind of when they do reboot and we do get a true X-Men thing, and if Feige is this close, I want to look at it and be like, the mutants, they smashed the mutant part of this. This is the trial for me.
That's fair.
I think this is the biggest trial for fans.
That is
Because
fair.
if that's the next thing for like 2028, 27, like we're technically, based on all the rumors and news, like we're not that far. Use this as your way to plant the seeds to be like, hey, if we do reboot or we keep whatever, the same MCU, and the next saga is the mutant saga, like every single YouTuber is saying it is, that has to be the part that feels really good. Because otherwise we're just gonna have the same conversation of like, we don't trust anyone to, and we are skeptical, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, we have our fan casts of like, these actors and directors should probably be a part of the mutants moving forward in the MCU, but use this as your trial run. Use the temporary characters so that we don't have expectations for them to show up in the future, but give fans the hope that when we get out of Secret Wars, we'll go on our nostalgia fan service ride, and then we're like, cool, now we're in the golden age of the MCU. Now we're going to get the core characters and teams. Now we're getting back down to business.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it on. Again, if you're listening us to for the first time, or if you've come back to us again, we're not ragging on the MCU. We're asking questions that I think a lot of fans have, and some don't know how to vocalize it. Because I've seen a lot of people kind of pensive towards Doomsday. I've seen people excited, but I think the main ones I've seen excited are your influencers that are trying to generate that excitement. But for most general fans, there are questions. And again, this is not a rag on the Russos. This is not a rag on Marvel. We don't hate superhero films. We love them. That's why we talked about it for an hour and 15. And honestly, if we could talk about this for another 3 hours and make it longer than Avengers Endgame and Infinity War combined. So I'm just saying. But
Talk about it all the way till Doomsday and Secret Wars come out.
I was gonna say, there you go.
The original release or the delayed one?
Oh, hitting him with some early SDCC predictions. What?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, we're gonna be getting into that. But everybody, thank you so much for watching another live stream Wednesday. 2 quick last minute housekeeping things, gentlemen. Less than a month away from Heroes Con. Yeah. The big party for us.
The big 0.3 party, baby.
0.3 party. So if anybody is going to be at Heroes Con and you are watching this in Charlotte, North Carolina, say hi to us. We'll be there all 3 days at some point. So if you see us, say hi. We'd love to meet anybody that does watch it.
Look at that logo.
Yeah.
Find the logo.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Right here.
No.
No? Oh, for me, it's right here. I don't know for you guys on your screen, but for me, it's right here.
No fusion for you.
Ah, boo. Boo.
Oh, wait.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
You went
Wait, can we do a 3-way fusion?
Whoa.
Sold.
Yeah, there we go. So Heroes Con next month. Say hi to us if you're going to be there. Also, don't forget Superman continues on this week. Man of Tomorrow. Whatever happened to Man of Tomorrow next week? All-Star Superman. And then we got some awesome stuff set up for Fantastic Four. Whoosh. As the red and the blues swing by the screen. But everybody, once again, we have been your favorite trio of hosts. Super Spider Brando, Lou, and Hero Scroll. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us, and take care.